and from the direction of the end of the hallway, the nasal spray flies through the air, hits Mum, and bounces back down the hallway. So she goes from this to this. My house was built in 1880. Ooh! Oh, who is that? In my late teens, early 20s, I was a strong atheist and stopped believing in ghosts. Do atheists not believe in ghosts? I've never thought about this before. Like those bells they would ring back in the day to let servants know it's time for their cup of tea. Boo! Did I scare you? Well, good, 'cause it's spooky month. So hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessica Layla, and it's spooky month, so we're doing spooky things. It's really dark in here, and as cool as this lighting is, I think I legitimately might not be able to see if I film an entire video like this, so we might need to turn some lights on. Today we're going to be doing something I don't believe we've ever done before, and we will be reading ghost stories. So I actually wanted to check out 2 subs. That's 4. So I actually wanted to check out 2 of these subs now for quite a while. I had the idea back in summer, but I was like, you know, we're getting kind of close to spooky month, so we should just save it for that. So these are 2 subreddits I've kind of been exploring a little bit. They scare me a tiny bit because these are real ghost stories. The first one is r/ghosts, and the second one is r/ghost stories. Now, I personally don't believe in ghosts. Maybe you don't either. They're fun stories, they're interesting to read, and there will be some pictures provided of ghostly things. So if you're not into ghosts and it's not your jam, it's not mine either, but I found these genuinely interesting. And I think last spooky month, we also did check out some real life stories, because sometimes real life is scarier than fiction. But yeah, things are about to get a little bit ghostly up in here. I hope you're all having a good October so far, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab your snacks, grab your drinks, get all comfy cozy, and let's just dive right in with the first post. So this first one comes from r/ghosts. It was posted by Anderson_X. Photobombing ghost in rural western Oregon. Now before I show you the image, let's get some context. From the person who shared this photo, I took it in the summer of 2011 at my grandparents' place in rural western Oregon. The only people around were my friends, the mom of the 2 girls in the shot, and my 7-year-old son who didn't want to join them. I snapped the picture on an old iPhone, and here's where it gets strange. The girl in the top left wasn't actually there. We have no idea who she is. Neither of us noticed until days later, when I finally texted the photo after we got service back in town. My friend immediately replied, "Who the heck is that?" Years later, my daughter, one of the girls in the picture, asked me about it, which made me bring it up again. It still gives us chills. For context, the girl closest to the camera is standing in the deepest part of the creek. When I first posted this on my personal page, some people suggested the unknown girl could have been a drowning victim. Maybe. That seems like we've jumped to some conclusions. My grandparents bought the land in the early 70s, when there was nothing built on it. Their first house burned down just a couple years later after a freak power surge, and they rebuilt on the same spot. My sister and I grew up there. Wonderful memories, yes, but also eerily similar nightmares about certain places on the property. So let me show you this photo. So let me just bring this up here, close to my face. So here's the thing. I'm of the opinion that a low quality image is always going to make an image seem scarier than what it truly is. Because in high definition, we'd be able to see the colors a little bit more. So as we can see, the sun is shining on all 3 of these people, whose faces I'll have to blur, according to Coppola's or whatever they're called on YouTube. All 3 of them are forward, while this person in the back, is not. They are behind the tree. So my theory is there actually was a person there. And they look a little bit creepier because they're standing in a shadow. So if you have 3 people fully in pretty much direct sunlight and then a 3rd person not, it's going to make them look kind of otherworldly because they're in such starkly different lighting. Now, could this be a ghost? But the thing is, people lie. People make up stuff. I don't know, but that's my take on it as a photographer. Let me take my screenshots. You did not take my screenshot. Thank you. Anyways, on to our next post. So this comes from r/ghosts strict at 2047. The Friendly Ghost S. In my childhood home. I have a lot of ghost stories to tell about my childhood home, but I'm gonna dive into one. Just a little background. My house was built in 1880. Ooh! And has a lot of history around it. In every room, there is a doorbell right near the entryway. It all connected to this device in the kitchen that would buzz and say which room it was coming from. Like those bells they would ring back in the day to let servants know it's time for their cup of tea. When I was a kid, the doorbells still worked in every room, and you could hear it around the house. We knew that was for the servants that used to work in the house over 100 years ago. I know my history. My house also had 2 staircases, one main staircase and one that connected right to the kitchen, which is off of my room. I often hear people going up and down the stairs when there is no one there, and voices. We have a big family, and my sister and I used to share a room right on the 2nd floor. We had twin beds that were parallel to each other. In this story, I was probably 8 and my sister was 7. One night, I wake up and I am so thirsty. I could feel how dry my throat was. All I wanted was my mom to come in and give me a glass of water. All of a sudden, I see my door lightly open and a woman dressed in traditional servant clothing, the black dress, white apron, hat with a blue hue, glides over to my bed and is holding a silver platter with a silver teacup and kettle on it. I remember trying to grab it and then lightly falling back asleep. I wasn't scared or nervous, I was very calm. The next day I wake up thinking it was some crazy dream, so naturally I wanted to tell my sister, who I thought was sleeping right next to me at the time. Before I can even begin telling my story, she tells me that she saw a blue woman next to her bed handing me a silver platter. I couldn't even speak, I was so shocked. Our stories lined up almost exactly. To this day, we both remember what we saw and can tell almost the exact same story. Let me take my screenshot. You know, ghosts that are friendly, come on in and have a blast. I don't mind ghosts that are friendly. It's the ones that are like, I'm gonna kill you in your sleep, that I'm kind of like, maybe not so cool with. I'm friendly ghost, you know, serving ghosts. You can come give me some ghostly tea, I'm fine with that. How do you explain 2 people sharing the same memory? Like, unless people have identical dreams, which could happen, but not very likely, how do you explain this? Is it a glitch in the Matrix? Is it actually a ghostly woman? Or did their mother actually come in and put something down on the nightstand and their brains in their sleepy natural states interpreted it as a ghost because they know they live in a Victorian house? I actually don't know if the 1800s when the Victorian age ended, so let me look that up real quick. It ended in 1981. I had some more DNA. If you're 7 or 8, you probably don't have the best grasp on what a Victorian person is, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. Maybe they really did see something, who knows? Anyways, on to the next one. This comes from r/ghosts from Green Fantastic 9004. Savannah ghost doll changes facial expression? I don't know who Savannah is, but I'd like some opinions about what people see. These 2 photos were taken simultaneously on my fiance's iPhone 12 Pro. They were taken at the Andrew Lowe house in the upstairs nursery that is prepared to reflect what a nursery at that time may have looked like. Doll is not original to the house, but an actual period piece. I've added both originals, no flash or live on either. I've also zoomed into the background on both. We noticed at dinner after leaving around 5 p. on our museum tour. Does anyone have any insight, experience, or suggestions? Well, what do you think? TIA. Today I ate. Okay, so let's look at these photos. So this is the doll. We get a little bit closer, okay, eyebrows on fleek. And then we get even closer, and now she's frowning. So she goes from this to this. See, this could just be a trick of the camera. I don't really know. It could be the lighting playing it tricky, because this is really zoomed in, to be fair. So there could have been some lighting changes that occurred. there could be something going on, but maybe she's just mad about something. If I were a doll stuck in a creepy house, I'd be mad. We're also living in the age of AI, so just keep that in mind. Images can be altered so easily now. Would I accuse this person of doing that? No, I'm just saying. What do you think this happened, huh?
What?
But what do you think? Anyways, on to the next one. So this comes from r/ghost stories by 12. 2 real ghost encounters I had as a kid. The Red Candle Lady and the Ghost Bride. These are 2 real ghost encounters I experienced as a child. To this day, I still don't know if they were tricks of my mind or something much more real, but they've stayed with me ever since. When I was around 10 or 11 years old, I was a pretty nervous kid, especially when it got dark outside. Me too. My imagination ran wild at night, and I'd always try to leave my little TV on to help me sleep. But my parents didn't like that. They'd get on me for running up the power bill or messing up the TV. And sometimes they'd come into my room late at night to make me shut it off. So eventually I started setting the TV on a timer before going to sleep. One night felt like any other. I had just watched some creepy videos on YouTube, including ghost stories from that old Top 15 channel. Even after all that, I didn't feel scared. Not yet. As I laid in bed in the dark, I noticed a small, faint red light glowing in the hallway. My first thought was that it was just car lights from outside, but then I realized car headlights are white or yellow, not red. Confused, I got out of bed and quietly peeked my head into the hallway. That's when I saw her. An old woman was standing there, holding a small red candle. She looked exactly like one of the figures from the Top 15 video I'd watched earlier that day. I panicked and ran back to bed, staring at my door in fear. I sat there for what felt like forever, too afraid to move. Eventually, I worked up the courage to sneak to my older brother's room. When I peeked into the hallway again, I saw the old woman was now standing in the living room, facing away from me. I quietly knocked on my brother's door and begged him to let me sleep in his room. At first he said no, but his girlfriend at the time said it was okay, so I hurried inside their dark room. But right as I was walking in, I looked back. She was gone. To this day, I don't know if it was just my imagination, or if the Red Candle Lady had actually appeared in my house. About a year later, close to Halloween, I had another strange experience. I've always loved this Halloween season. The cool air, pumpkin pie, and all the spooky decorations. That year, my family bought a projector that displayed Halloween videos on surfaces like windows or walls. It showed all sorts of fun things, laughing pumpkins, skeletons, ghosts, zombies. But one video stood out to me. The Ghost Bride. It was a creepy loop of a woman in a wedding dress. At first she floated in place, gently motioning with her finger for you to come closer. As the video continued, she would drift across the wall or window, cry, and eventually scream loudly. It's scary! We couldn't aim the projector at the window. The blinds were too big. So we set it up to display the videos on a wall inside the house instead. One night, I went to bed like normal after turning the projector on like my dad asked. Everything felt fine until around 2:30 or 3 a.m. A white light flickered in the hallway, just like in my Red Candle Lady encounter. At first I ignored it, but it grew brighter. When I looked again, I saw what looked like a glowing white cloth moving across my doorframe. I slowly got up, walked to the door, and there she was. The Ghost Bride. She turned her head and stared directly at me, making the same beckoning hand gesture I'd seen in the projector video. Frozen in fear, I quickly crawled back into bed and hid under the covers for a few minutes. When I finally worked up the nerve to peek into the hallway again, she was gone. Confused, I checked the living room. The projector was off. Not only that, it was unplugged. I hadn't touched it and had no idea if my parents went in after I fell asleep and unplugged it, but they never said they did. All I know is that I saw the same Ghost Bride from the video standing in my hallway, making the same eerie hand motion. Here's something else weird. I still have a projector just like the one we used that night. My grandma and stepmom actually bought similar projectors around the same time. And when my grandma moved in with us, she gave me hers because she knew how much I loved Halloween. It's sitting in my room right now. Sometimes I wonder, should I plug it back in and try to see if the ghost bride comes back? Or was it something tied only to the original projector we used that night? I've thought about testing it. Honestly, I'm not sure I want to find out what happens. I don't blame you. Yeah, you wouldn't catch me plugging that back in. You know, I've never had an experience like that, and that would horrify me. The thing is, we can chalk it up to dreams, right? Sometimes dreams, sometimes dreams we very well know, night terrors, sleep hormones sometimes release a little incorrectly. It can feel so real in that moment, but it's not. The thing is, I don't know if that's what happened, but the fact that these were, childhood encounters, is that what was said? Yeah, 10 or 11 years old. It was very well written, but they did admit to using ChatGPT to correct their grammar, so I don't even know if it's true. Anyways, on to the next one. So this one comes from r/Ghoststories by Bob the Builder 926. Tell me your ghost stories. So this is someone just asking for people to tell them their ghost stories, and in the comment section I found one really interesting. The year was 2008. I moved into a new cottage-style house. 1.5 bedroom that the attic was gutted and turned into a room. I fell in love with the place and had to have it. The night I moved in, I was taking a shower when I heard an old woman call my name in a very creepy, very haggard, and long drawn-out voice. Nobody was in the home with me. I lived by myself. I immediately get out of the shower, fully expecting someone to be in the home. I got dressed so fast and ran out of the house, terrified to return. I never heard anything again, but the upstairs room had such an ominous feeling to it, like something evil was up there. When you would close your eyes, you could feel something in front of your face. I was always afraid of what I would see if I opened my eyes, so I never did. I would see shadows on a daily basis. It was the longest year of my life. I couldn't wait for my lease to be up. Yeah, dog, if I heard a creepy old lady calling my name, I'm burning the house to the ground. I'm out. The thing is, I hallucinate a lot. Is that weird to admit? I don't know. I do, though. If I heard that, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna, you know what? You can have the house. Enjoy it. It's all yours. I don't like creepy, evil vibes in a place. When you're exploring an abandoned area or building or just, a really desolate place. That feeling that sometimes you get, something's weird here. That's your sign to get out. Go. So if I move into a place and I'm like, nah. Anyways, on to the next one. So this one was just hilarious to me. It comes from r/ghosts. From Kentucky Fried Memes, 30. A ghost thing looking out the window on the side of a big house, 2025. Michael Jackson. It's not Michael Jackson. I'm pretty sure that's a dog. But this got 0 upvotes and I just found it hilarious, so I thought we could include it. I think it's just a dog with receding hairline, maybe. You can see the ears a little bit, but it just looks like it's a little bit bald on top, Although some dogs have very eerily human-looking eyes, and I'm convinced some dogs aren't real. Anyways, on to the next one. So this comes from Ghoststories, and it's by Deleted. My imaginary friend was not imaginary. One night, my dad could hear me speaking loudly, so he came to check on me. I was 6 or 7. He found me at the end of the bed talking to absolutely no one. When he turned the lights on, I got startled and leapt under the covers. He asked who I was talking to, but I didn't want to say. I'd been talking to my imaginary friend. He asked me to please not tell anyone about him because he didn't want to leave. Well, that's a first red flag right there, don't you think? I remember clearly seeing him. A blonde kid with green eyes who told me his name was Y. I tried to be quiet because I didn't want my dad to come back. Once I got caught again, I started keeping a diary where I would communicate by writing my questions and answers so no one could hear me. Y told me some horrible things about his parents and how they were a part of something really bad. He told me that if I looked through the socket in the kitchen above the oven, I would see where they put the ones they helped harm. So I did. My dad walked in on me as I'm literally looking through the socket and saw stained glass. Like what you would see in a church or something. He asked me what I was doing, and I got really scared and told him what I saw. He looked and saw nothing. He reassured me nothing was in the wall. He later found my diary, and it was disturbing. He started asking questions about why and telling me that I didn't have to be afraid of telling the truth. So I told him. Why told me? That the bodies are under the house. My dad was genuinely terrified, so he started to research our property. Turned out our home was built over a church graveyard during the Second World War. I never saw or heard from Y again. I had one of those when I was a kid. It was what my mom told everyone was an imaginary friend, and I remember her well to this day. I'm 40. Long, dirty blonde hair to her waist, faded light blue jeans, pink worn-out sneakers, and a fluffy kind of knitted sweater that was light pink with a band that went horizontally across the front made up of 3 stripes. The top one was teal, the middle one was an off-white or light yellow, and the bottom one was lavender. Wow, mama slay. She was always in the same clothes, and I remember talking to her through the vents of our house at night, but never remember her playing with me in my room or anywhere inside our house. The only time I remember seeing her in the day was outside, never in our house. Once I got older, I realized that she never changed, and that her clothes looked like they escaped from the late 70s. I would have been about 4 or 5, which would have been 1988 to 89. I remember her name being Jessica, and when I have asked about her, no one ever seems to remember me playing with a little girl of that description or by that name. There are no pics of her at my birthday parties or in class pictures. I'm pretty sure she was a ghost. If you remember talking to her in your vents, why would you not think she was something more than a ghost? What else would she be? Bro, that's exactly my point, LMFAO. Oh, epic memes! I'm thinking Jessica, not this one. Might have been real. The thing is, so many people have experiences in their childhood of talking to ghosts or people who look like they're from another time period, so I don't know what that is. Maybe some kids just don't have, like, the veil or whatever. There's always been that theory that kids don't have the veil, you know? The things that stop us from seeing the world around us as it truly is. I never experienced anything like that. Thankfully, I was terrified, and I prayed as a child to please never let me see anything like that. We claim no negative energy from any of this. Christ is Lord. Can I get an amen? That's scary. Was Jessica real? Is the ghost boy? I don't know. So this next one comes from r/Ghoststories from OK_moment_3853. My childhood house was insanely haunted. In my late teens, early 20s, I was a strong atheist and stopped believing in ghosts. Do atheists not believe in ghosts? I've never thought about this before. I've lived out of the home for about 10 years. I used to wave away what happened with the tricks of the light. People wanting supernatural things to happen. There would be some rational explanation. Until it hit me. I've lived in 7 places since we sold my family home, and nothing has ever happened elsewhere. Nowhere near. Not even the small things, like going into a kitchen and all the cupboards' doors being opened, or getting calls from the house phone to my grandma's mobile, despite no one being in the kitchen where the landline was. I know spoofing was a thing even back then, but it was the actual number, and we knew no one into that stuff. The amount of stuff that happened is insane. From voices, electrical items messing up, to seeing items fly by themselves, to full-blown apparitions. Millions of stories, but 2 stand out. Layout of the house. On the right side, open plan living dining area, semi-open kitchen. On the left, in the middle of the living room and dining area, there is a hallway. Immediately on the left, stairs downstairs, Grandpa's living area. Next on the right, bedroom 1. In the corner of the hallway, master bedroom. I cannot visualize this for some reason. After turning the corner, to the left, 3rd bedroom. Straight ahead, toilet. To the right, bathroom. Incident 1. It was about 7 p.m. Grandpa had gone to bed. My siblings and I were in the lounge room. My grandma was in the kitchen. Mom was getting angry because she couldn't find her nasal spray. I retreat to my room. I changed my mind and decided to try to help my mom find her nasal spray. So at this point, I'm at the doorway of the bedroom 1. Mom is at the start of the hallway. No one was further down the hallway. My mom yells, "Someone must know where my nasal spray is. Give it to me!" And from the direction of the end of the hallway, the nasal spray flies through the air, hits Mom, and bounces back down the hallway. I exclaim, "What the hell was that?" And Mom looks at me and says, "You saw that, right?" No one was down the end of the hallway. I saw it fly down the hallway. Incident 2. This probably happened about 12 years later. Nen and Mum were out. We had someone sleep over, so the spare mattress was standing up in the hallway. My grandpa asked my sister to take it downstairs. I watched my sister take it down because we had a gate on the stairs, so I closed the gate for her. Then all ended up talking in the kitchen for a bit, and then my grandpa goes to return downstairs, and us kids went off to do our own thing. And when we walked towards the hallway, mattress was back in the hallway. We stopped and looked at each other. I said, "I saw sister take it down." My grandpa did not want to talk about it. Me and my siblings refused to be alone for the rest of the day. This one absolutely broke my brain for the next few weeks, to be honest. I had a sick feeling whenever I thought about it. Tell us more about the full-blown apparition. A little boy, about hip height to me. I'm 5'6". Pale skin, blonde hair, wearing either pale shorts or a blue bottom button-up, or a pair of overalls. Would mainly be seen running down the hallways or going down the stairs. Was always running, but like how children tend to run around, especially when they are playing. Had multiple people who hadn't been told about it report it. He was slightly similar to how my brother looked. Not much, just pale, blue-eyed with blonde hair. And I can remember a relative visiting once on a school holiday and asking if Mum's boy had stayed home from daycare. Nan replied, "No." "Why?" And they said, "Oh, I could have sworn seeing him run down the hallway." Also, a few times balls started rolling by themselves, and another time as I was walking down the stairs, I could hear something outside, and I thought someone was in our backyard bouncing a ball. And as I walked down the stairs, I could see out the window into the little entertaining area that my basketball was bouncing by itself, and I always attributed that to him. Almost gave you a sense of wonder. Our dogs seemingly could see him too, wagging their tail and other playful behaviors. His presence was the one that scared me the least, and people seemed much less shook by him. People seemed to either accept it or brush it away, and move on without being really affected. There seemed to be a real warmth. We think that he was connected to the old farmhouse next door. The kid had died in the 1800s in there. Downstairs, the granny flat was where my great-grandfather lived, and I saw his chair rocking, etc., but I never saw him. But I heard a few people say they saw him. His presence was kind of spooky, but not bad. Kind of like you would feel watched and get a little spooked out, but also giggle about it. Then there would be another presence that we mostly felt in the garage area. That was intense and felt really, really bad. For the most part, that one was just a vibe. But that's what scared me the most. It was very, very dark and oppressive. So you start off by saying you brushed it off because you were an atheist. I guess I never really thought about the fact that atheists just don't, some of them, not all of them, don't believe in anything, including ghosts. So, you know, if I were experiencing stuff like that, I don't think I could rationalize any of that. I just don't think I'd be able to rationalize that as tricks of the light. See, I just hallucinated something popping up right here. I saw it in the viewfinder and it was not pleasant for me. I hallucinate. It's not ghosts. I just see things. So let's end the night with one last crazy one and call it there. So this comes from fun_initiative 1671. Photos taken at St. Peter and Paul Jesuit. Is it something? Photos taken seconds apart. Curious. Who is that? That looks like a Victorian era lady to me. It's a kind of low quality photo, and it's taken in a pretty dark environment, and if, let's say this was taken on iPhone. iPhone has this really annoying feature that often messes up photos when I'm taking pictures of my cat. So there's this feature, I don't know if you can see it, where it will hold the image for 3 seconds. So your shutter will stay open for all 3 seconds, and sometimes it's 2 seconds, sometimes. So it really makes these like grainy, low quality photos if you move at all. Kind of like when you're taking a panoramic photo, if you move, you kind of screw up and like get those weird, funny images. So that's the issue with taking photos like these, is someone could have very well just appeared from, you know, one of the rooms close by, or a pillar, or they could have been kneeling and praying, say, and stood up. You probably would be able to miss something like that because it's not going to be, like, super noisy. I've never been in a place like that. That's the thing about the ghost images, which is why I didn't want to just make this purely an image-based video, is because a lot of the images are either manipulated, people just straight up lie about them, or relying on technologies that are not really the best for capturing lower quality environments like the dark or low light, you know? Here's the thing though, if I took a picture and then I looked at the picture, would I not remember a person being there at some point? But that's just my line of thinking, is anytime I take a photo, I immediately look at it afterwards. I don't know if everyone does that. So I know it's not fair to be like, well, why didn't you look at the photo and look up and see if a person was there? But I think that's a habit a lot of people have, so I don't understand how people don't immediately look after taking a picture and be like, oh, there's a person in this photo. There's no person over there. But I guess maybe it's also generational. You know, photos didn't used to be instant. So yeah, that is where we're gonna cut it off for the night. Those were some ghost stories, some ghostly ghosts. And ghosts. All of the original posts will be linked down below if you want to go read them, and the 2 subreddits we used tonight will also be linked down below if you want to do some exploring on your own. It has already been not the best week, so I wanted to do something simple. It's been a very, shall we say, active symptom week, so I don't have a ton of energy to dedicate to videos right now. But I want to do something for the spooky season, right? I don't want to drop the ball completely and be a lame, boring idiot. I find stuff like this genuinely very interesting. This is kind of my bread and butter. I don't know if other people are into stories like this. We'll see how well these videos do, I guess. Are people into the same thing as I am? So thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you all enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you all here next time for more spooky month.